It's modern module development. And when we say modern module development, what does that mean? So the first question I have is for everyone. Who's been writing one module recently, let's say in the last month or so? Okay, I do similar talks quite often, and it's the first time I've seen let's say more than half of that's probably about 80% of the people over there writing modules. And usually people are just writing scripts. So we'll see where we go. So many thanks to the sponsors that we have making this possible. And let's look very quickly at the modules. Everyone with a laptop, did you do a Git clone of the repository? Yes? No? Someone else? Okay, I got thumbs up, so that's good. I'll show again very quickly. So this is what I did. So I'm configured with SSH, but maybe you have the HTTPS, so you can just do a git clone via HTTP. It's just that so that you have the repository, and I can go into my folder, and this is module dev, and I can just do code if I can type, and I've got Visual Studio Code over there. Okay, so that's my Visual Studio Code. I assume that you have Visual Studio Code set up. I just have a few recommendations. If you just use it out of the box, sometimes I don't like the icons and things like that. So I recommend you to use VS Code icons. So if you look at the extensions, VS Code icons, I would say that's the bare minimum to be able to see the PowerShell files. And that's going to help us because there's different type of PowerShell file we're going to look at today, the PSD1, PSM1, PS1. So it's just easier to see the differences. So you can see I've put some examples, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, so it's easier to follow. And then we can see the different files. When you go to the PSM1, it's a different color. And then if you look at the PSD1, it's even a different color over there. So it just helps you, finding the files. That's just for the VS Code icons. So before we go into the modules, do I need to make that a little bit bigger? Here you go. So most of the time when I'm a consultant, so I go in different companies, and most of the time what I see is people starting writing scripts, and you've got scripts everywhere. And then when they need to do something new with something old, they take the script, move it somewhere else, change a few things, and that's the way the script evolves. So who's not using Git at all at work? Everyone use Git? Okay. Someone is not, maybe. Okay. So I don't need to cover Git too much. I will just go a bit faster. So you've got this script, and it's cool. You can just execute it. So you say, well, if I have to change, let's say, some data, and then I can just .source the file, my script. Oh, I've got something wrong. You know what? Dates. There's a British that just laughed just there because he knows. Okay, so why is this wrong? Is it this? Really? Yes, I don't know why actually, but I'm not going to troubleshoot that today. And that's going to happen to every script that I have. It's probably because I messed up my locals at some point. But basically, you can just execute the script, and then what people do, they change the variables. So let's say, I just changed the variables, saved it, and then you see there's another, I just changed the variables because I changed, what happened, and then the behavior of the script changed. So that's good, but everyone knows that's probably not a good way to use your scripts in your company. So then you go on and say, well, we need to be a bit more clever, and we'll use parameters to the script. So you take the same thing, you probably will have the same error. So let's just do that for now. Okay. And now we have parameters. So obviously we can call the scripts in a different way. So let me just go Example 2. Come on. I can't type. It's okay. It's going to come. Here we go. My script with parameters. And now I have my parameters with the event date. And also, the presenter. And then Raymond. Just come here, Raymond. You see? So that's another way to use scripts and then be able to reuse scripts depending on the environment. Without changing the script, you can just change the parameters. So wherever you call the scripts for an orchestrator, a build pipeline, or anything, you can just change the parameters. Easy. Everyone's doing that. That's relatively simple. And that already improves. You don't have to change the file to change how to use the script. Okay. So now, let me just close the others. So when you evolve and when you've got your team evolving, they start, doing a bit more PowerShell a bit more often. They will start to say, well, we always do the same part the same way. Why do we have to copy paste the code every time? So let's do a new function. And then we start putting more functions on similar scripts. We'll eventually have different functions, right? So I have, let's just go highlights. I have a script file. It's still a script file. Within that script file, I define 2 functions: get my demo message, show my demo event message, and then I will define the parameters from, as we've seen, the file parameters at the top. I use splatting of those parameters, and I use the pipeline to execute it. Okay, no problem so far? So that a similar way, and I will load this now, X03, and I can do event date. I will do again. I don't need to change that. So let's just do this for now. Obviously, I still have the same issue. Thank you. Someone actually sent me a pull request, and I think that's a great thing to do live. I will just go fix dates for Gael's demo. Thank you. Files changed. All of those. That looks pretty good. Review change. There we go. Approve. And then I can just... Ooh, where is it? Merge. Config. I don't want to do that, actually. Let's just go back. I don't want to do that. I want to do rebase and merge. Thank you. Okay. This is live coding. All right. Let's do this again. There we go. Oh yes. Boop. All right. And now my dates have changed. So let's just do the same command I was doing before. And that's the one. Yay! Thank you, Jakob. Okay, so this is very similar ways. You have a script that evolves, and at some point you do, well, we're tired of retyping, copy, pasting the same function, the same code all over again, so we just create functions. So your single file script starts to have more functions. And you add 1, and you add 2, and then you have more and more. But what if one of the functions in that script need to be used in another script? Because now when I invoke this file, every time it will run the full thing. So I need to take this function, copy paste it into my other script function. So what I'm trying to say is using single scripts, it's not a sustainable way of coding, because you write bits of code that could be reused in other scripts, but it's not a good way to enable everyone working with you and yourself as well to reuse the code and maintain the same code and make it evolve, continually improving this code. So instead of that, you should separate your functions into something that you can reuse somewhere else. So usually people say, well, that's pretty easy. So let's just take the functions and then we'll split them in different files. If I need function A, I will dot source function A. I will include that into my file. And then if I don't need it, I'm just not going to need to do anything. So that's the next example. And you got one function here, which has got the same name as the file, just so it's convenient to find it. I have my other function that we defined in the same script just before. Okay. And these are just the functions. They're not doing anything. The parameters are at the function level. Oops, sorry. It clicks. Sorry. 1 second. This is just a bit. All right. Hopefully this is going to stay. So the parameters are not at the file level. They're at the function level. So if I just execute that script, it's not going to do anything. It should just load the function when I dot source the file. Everyone knows what dot sourcing is? Who doesn't? Dot sourcing? Okay. Okay, I'll show what dot sourcing is. Dot, that's what I was doing earlier. So dot, and then this one. I'm dot sourcing the file myscript.ps1. So whenever I said dot sourcing, that means I put a dot to make sure the content of the script is included in my current session. And that makes whatever function that was defined in that file available into my session. When I execute, and we could do it like this, just to make sure like I'm just executing the function. This is not including the content of the file into the session, basically. So back to this one, I also have a script, and this script is only defining the parameter. It's then saying, let's dot source the first function file, and then let's dot source the second function file, because for this one, I need both, because I'm piping my parameters, piping the results of the my demo message to show my demo event message. So let's go again. And I'll just do this. And that's 04. And this time I will just execute my script, which is my script with function. So my script with function is my point of entry into whatever I automated. So if I do that, it just automatically it executes the thing, but it dot source the files inside that file. So then it makes the function available, and then I can just reuse the function. So it's already better than what we had before. I have a simple entry file, which is my script. Let's say you can have an automation system, schedule task, or something running that file, and then everything else is in different files. So at least you can reuse those files and the function within those files whenever you need them, and not just copy pasting. So it's a tiny evolution. And then if you want to go further, well, you need to look at modules. So let's start getting into the meat of this session, is the modules. So if we go into the modules, that's a module. So if you look at the documentation, it says, well, a module, it can be just a PSM1. And within that PSM1, PowerShell module file, you can define all the functions you want. And that's the way you start doing it, where you have parameters to that PSM1, which is something strange, but we'll get to that later. You can have, the get my demo message, same function as we had before, and the show, same function as we had before again. And the parameters will do the same here as we had before. Problem is, how do I execute that? So if I try this, and then my script, that doesn't work anymore. I'm pressing tab now, and there's nothing working there. What does it do? Oh, nice. It just opens my file. So if I import it, everyone knows import module, just a bit of shortcut. Same here, import module, and then X05 So that executed it, but how do you pass the parameter here? These are the import module parameters, not my script functions PSM1 parameters. All right. So basically, you import the module, you make the functions available, and then from those functions, you can start, you can call them, because now if I do get module, see what's loaded, you can see that I have my script with functions, and you can see that there's exported command, which are the one I define here. So if I do get demo, my demo message, sorry, I'll manage my demo message, event date, and I'll try to get it right. 06 24. And you see, oh, no, it's asking for the other parameters. Yes, obviously, I forgot. Subject, I don't know. And that works. So I can use my parameters. I can use my parameters to the functions, and the functions are available, but it's harder to execute directly. So some people say, well, I still need a script. The idea is you probably don't need a script. You should probably just call directly the functions with your parameters. So that's the evolution from, people in your team maybe starting to write scripts. You need to guide them towards writing modules. What's the benefit of modules? Modules is like a little package that you can say, well, this is available, and then anyone can use it. So the problem with this module, it's just one big PSM1 file. If you have, 20, 25 functions, it starts to be a very big file. And then you have thousands of lines. And unless you go and look inside this file, you won't know which function is available, or you need to import that module. So over time, the community, because it's not just me doing this, but the community thought maybe there's other ways and there's better ways to create your modules, so then it's easier to maintain. So we started to do, well, let's take the module and then take a bit of both, the best of both worlds. We have single files with the functions, but we package things in one scope and in one element with a module. So we put the single files, and then we say, well, we can put the functions directly into subfolders, and in the PSM1, we will just .source every file that we have. So the functions are available when you import this module, but at the same time, you're still keeping them separate, and then it's easier to maintain. And then here, I just have to look at my private and public folder, and then I have my functions available. If I need to add another function, I'll just create a new file with a new function. So let's just do this. Let's do get some string. All right. Okay. I'll just keep my thank you. There we go. Thank you, Copilot. That helps. More helpful than Raymond, but that's another problem. Just kidding. So if you're here, now I can try to import this module. So I will import it by path. So it's x06. And then I go to my module. And then because it's already set up, it should just work. There we go. And then you can see some modules have been, some commands have been imported. So if I do get some string, if I can type some string name, I've just added a function. I know it's in my module. If I do remove module, how did I call it? My module. I really can't type. All right. And then if I try again. So now I've just have another module, but instead of having all the functions in my PSM1, I have them in my public folder on its single PS1s. Okay, so now let me just clear that up a bit. And let's look just at this layout. Okay, so here I have my module, which is defined with the PSM1. And the PSM1 is only doing this. You see 17 line. I've added a new function. Automatically, it was added to it. And it's pretty simple to use. If I want to add more functions, I don't have to change this. I just keep adding them as single files in the PS1s. Who's doing like this already? Dot sourcing the files from the PSM1 file to the yeah. Okay. Who's writing everything in a PSM1 file? Okay, I know there's some preferences there. Okay, so doing this when you get many functions gets a little bit easier to see what code you have. Yes, what's the third option, Rob? We'll get to that in a bit. But yes, so that means you said the better way or your better way. Another way is to have everything in PS1 files when you develop. Is that what you said? And then you put everything in a PSM1 file when you release it. Okay, we'll get to that in a bit. So this is not really new, and nothing is actually new. It's just like we evolved. I would say at the beginning when we were writing PowerShell, like many years ago, what the code I found was mostly like this, starting with one big PSM1 files, and then slowly people saying, well, it's a bit hard to manage. And it was even before we had VS Code. People started to say, well, let's put them in different files, and it will be easier to maintain one function per file, and then dot source that in the module. So now I can still use another entry point, which is still my single file, and that could be just in your scheduled task script block that you want to put. And then here you just have the call. You just have to import the module as I showed you on the screen. Okay. So let's go and then evolve a bit more. So there's why do we have the same thing again? I forgot. All right. Something else we can say about this one is if you create a new function, let's say I didn't explain what the private and public was. So let's go into that. So usually private and public is just a convention that we use to say, well, some will be private to the module and some will be public. So when you import the module, some should be available, some should not be available. If it's private, it should be only seen inside the module. Okay? So if we want to change the visibility of those functions, we just take the file, put it in private. And if we try that, hopefully that's going to work, because I haven't tested that this morning. So let's do module. Oh, it's not there. So let's do import. I'm just going to go. Yes, I'm lazy. That's the one. And then do force, just in case. Get module. My module. Is it going to be nice? That's not going to be great like this. Is it this? No? Functions? No. Let me just close that for now. Nice. I don't know what I did. Okay, let's just do remove module my module. Import module, my module force, and get command module, my module. No, it doesn't want. So it's not there. Maybe I didn't import the right file. Yeah, it didn't export. It should not export it. Okay, I'm not looking at the right thing. It's there. Okay, and then, but I don't know why it doesn't show it. It should still show it. So show PS. Okay. Because it didn't even import that one. PS event message. No, I'll get back to that. I think I have maybe this one will be nicer. Let me just go and check. And it's called my module. Okay, remove module, my module. Let's do this again. Let's do this again, I said. There we go. Okay. There we go. So I said if I go into this and I create my file, actually I'm just going to take it from here. I just want it to be in this one. And then I import it again and force. It doesn't add it there. So let's take this one and make it public. And I need to import it. Git command, I still have just one. Probably because in my module manifest, it is defined here. So I still need to, if I put it into the module manifest and I don't use export module member, then this is what's going to say the rule, the policy of what needs to be exported. So I still have to manually do that, which is a bit annoying. Thank you, Copilot, again. And then I do import module force. Yes. And note that I have this, I can do this. All right. And git command. Oh, come on. I must have a typo. I'll just wait for Jakub to fix it, and then that's going to be a couple of minutes. It's probably the wrong name, yeah. Oh, actually, I think I just noticed. Oh, I know what it could be. Yes, it gets some strings. I'm just silly. Sorry. I trusted Copilot. You see what happens. Okay, so get some string. Thank you. It's not pair programming. It's programming with like, I don't know, 80-ish people. It's even worse. All right. I said my module. That was correct. And then git command, my module. And now it's exported. All right. It's a bit tedious. And if you need to rely on the human to do it, especially if the human is me, that's going to be, broken every other time. So it's still an improvement. So it's easier to manage the files, but you still have to do some changes. And then sometimes you say, well, now you need to deal with the version. My module manifest defines what version I have. So if we go at the top, you have got the module version. If you want to do a new release, what do you do? Well, I've done a version. Maybe it's a bit broken. I found a bug. So I need to up the version. And I need to change this again. Another thing is, maybe your module is growing and you've got more functions. And then you say, well, I need to add a class. How do you do this? Well, you need to have classes, but where do you put the classes? Let's just say, okay, now I need to add some more classes. So let's go there. I need to create a folder. I don't have to create the folder. I just find it's a bit more tidy. So I'll just put classes, and then in there, I will define a PowerShell class. My class. And then I do class, my class, and property 1. So I have defined a class there. So now I need this maybe to also be .sourced into my module. So I need to go into my PSM1, which is .sourcing everything. And if the class is used in your parameters, the class should be defined before you use the class in your parameters. So let me show an example. So let's say I will .source it here. We're using classes at all for the script so far. Yes, this is really undervalued. Classes is very convenient, but sometimes to get them working, especially with modules, is a bit difficult because there's a lot of edge cases and ways that if you .source, you need to do using modules and things like that. So maybe I will cover that in depth in the next hour. For DSC, they are great. So the good thing about classes, it's a contract. So you say, well, this is the way it should be. This is how you can construct it. And this is how you can modify it. So you say, my class creates objects that have those properties always. And then when you give some parameters to the class, well, to the constructor, you say, well, with this, you can build and you can populate those parameters. And with the methods, you can say, with that method, you can just modify the class or use the class in some ways. So here I will just do a single dot source. So from the PS module base, so PS scripted, and I'll do classes. I still can't type. Come on. It's because it's really low. If I knew the guy organizing this, really, I should tell him. All right, let's go. My class, there we go. And now I will use this. I will use this class in, let's say, here as an optional parameter. So my class is named. Am I editing the right thing here? No, I'm not. I'm happy I managed to find this. And this one, still not. Okay, let's do this again. Sorry, live coding. Too much of a mess. All right, I'm in this 7, so I'm just going to close that one. All right, so I go into my get some string, because now it's public. And then my optional parameter is my class. So I can use my class. Come on. And I will say param2. Okay, just to say, well, I have this function, you accept the parameters. I'm not using it yet, which is not something you should do, but just for the sake of the example. I create a module. My PSM1 is dot sourcing everything. Now it's dot sourcing everything. And that should just work. And then now it should just be able to work with this. So let's give it a go. So I'll do the 7, yes, and force, and that seems to be working, which is not logical. So let me just try that again. Oh yeah, because probably I had it before. Okay, let's try this. Let me check I'm loading the right thing. My class is there. My class, property 1, that's correct. Get some string, my class, and then we do this. And I'm trying to use it, and I can't find this type, but I've defined it. I don't understand. Okay, let me just check what I'm doing. So if I dot source my class, so x07, module PSD1, classes, where is it? Module PSD1, my module, sorry, classes, and then my class. I had no error, so the class definition should be there. So if I try my class, and then I'll just do a new, that's working. So if I do something here, object equal my class new, that seems to be working. Object dot, what's the name of my property? Or property 1, value. So why is it not working? So let's look at the error message again. What was I doing? Oh, get some string. Oh, now it's working. What happened? So that's the problem when you deal with classes, and then you deal with dot sourcing files, and then you have trouble understanding or knowing, what's going on, what's at play there. So let's go and then say, well, let's stop this. Let's take, so the my class here, probably it's because when I do the PSM1 here, the definition of my class is dot sourced after. So let's put it on the top. So then first we define the class, then we do everything else. So I just don't want to have the class loaded, so I just restart my shell. This is a brand new shell. I do the same thing as I did. I import my module. Okay. And now I will try again my get some string. And now that works. It's available. The class is there. That's perfect. All right, so I can use my class new. Oh, no, I can't. What happened again? So now the class is defined in the module. The functions in the module find it, but I can't use them because it's within the module, right? So how do you do that? Well, the problem with this, usually people, when they have this issue, what they do is like, okay, I'm stop doing this. I will just take a single file and I will put everything into this single file like I was doing 3 years ago, and I'm not even going to try to understand what's going on. And to be fair, I can understand. But that's why you've got sometimes, better ways of doing this. So people know that if you do using module, then you can load the class, right? So using module, and that helps you say, well, I will be using the classes from that module. And then in this case, you need to do the path, because it's not in my module path. So 7. And then it's my module. All right. We're going to import it. So now it's imported. I'm done using module. Damn it. Still not working. But I've looked at the documentation, and it says if a class is defined in a module, I can load it using module. Who knows why this is not working? Who knows why this is not working? Yeah, not you over there. You fixed my code. You can't do everything. Okay, so there's an issue there. Is we are dot sourcing the files. So let's try something else. Okay, dot sourcing didn't work for some reason. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Okay, so I removed the dot sourcing, and just because I want to see why is it not working, I'll just take the class here. I'll put it there on the top. I mean, there's no magic involved. The class is defined there. Let's just go again. I just want a clear shell because I never know what's happening there. All right, let's try again. So I imported earlier, so I'm just going to import it again just in case. I just want to do the using again. And then I want to try my class new. Now it's working. So when you have .source files from a PSM1 file, even if you use it in the module, but if it's not defined in the PSM1 file, then you won't be able to load them. Annoying, isn't it? So then what's the point of having classes and functions in different files to maintain them if you can't actually use them? So there's a few ways to get around this. As Rob mentioned earlier, you can separate the files for when you edit them, when you dev them. And then every time you want to have this module, you're going to build it, and we will see what that means. We just take all the content of the files, merge everything into the PSM1 file, and then release this as the module. So everything will be in the PSM1 file when you use it, so the using module will work. But when you maintain the files, they will be in single files, and that's going to be easier for you to see what's in your module. So now there's two ways. So this is doing the using module. And then someone asked me yesterday at the back over there, there's no other way than doing a using module. So I would like to be able to use my class just when I import the module. And I said, well, yes, you can do that. You can just create a type accelerator dynamically when you load the module based on the classes you defined. And I said, well, it's actually in the PowerShell docs. And I don't know how long yesterday to find it, but I will try to find it again. So if I type PowerShell module about classes, something like that, about classes, and then I look at the title because I need to read the fudging manual. Where is it? Exporting classes with type accelerator. And they're very nice. They say, well, you see, this is the code. And I'm not going to go through the code because now you can find it. I just copy everything. I'll go into my PSM1 file in this case. And I will just go at the end because my class is defined at the top. And I just copy paste that. Just the class name I need to put there. and I called it my class. Okay. And now I'm just going to start with a new shell. You know, classes, there's a problem with affinity and stuff like that. I just want to start with a clean shell just to prove it's working. I import the module now. I haven't done the using module. I'm not doing this. I'm just doing this. And now it works straight away. I didn't do using module. It was a clean shell. So that's the way you can just, when you import the module, you can have access to your class already. And you don't have to put all the classes, just the one you want to export. Okay? Who's using that already? Yeah. Oh, yes. Some at the back over there. But that's a good way. That's a good way to just have your classes available. And that's why classes are a bit difficult. But when you don't know those things, like it's really hard to get the classes working right with what you used to do before. But when you have those two tricks, you know, that really helps. So let's try something else now. You see, I don't need the using module. So maybe now I can just get rid of this and comment that. I still have my class defined in this own file here. I'm just going to take a new shell, again, to prove. Yes. It's okay. And now I import, and I go straight to my class new, and it works. And now we can go back again to not caring that much about if it's in separate files or not. All right? But we will get back to what Rob said, like, yeah, but we could also just merge them. And there's some benefits of doing this. For instance, if you sign the module, and there was a session about that yesterday, how to sign your modules, and I was using Sampler. We'll get back to that. And basically, if you sign your modules and you have many files that you need to sign, it's going to slow down the loading time of your modules. And the more files you have, the more signatures needs to be checked, and the slower it will get for your module. So, should we create a module based on some of those principles? So something that, okay, let's do just one more thing before we go further. In classes, there's some other challenges. When you define different classes, another thing will matter. Sorry? In that. Close enough? No? Fine. Thank you. I was waiting for Jacob to help me out. So when you have different classes, the order will matter. The parser in PowerShell will need to, like, if you use a class at some point, you need to be sure it's defined before you use it. It's kind of obvious. Well, it's kind of okay, but you need to know that. So you can't really say, well, I want to have a type which is other class, and then it's going to be other property. Sometimes like this is not going to work. I think maybe that works on, I can't remember. Does that work on PowerShell 5 or 7? Well, we can find out. Well, we'll find out another time. But basically, sometimes you want to make sure the order of your classes is done the right way. And especially when you start having inheritance, you need to be a bit careful. So quite often, I just want to show you the trick. I just change the order of my files. So this one should be in order class. And I will go into a new file. Sorry, order class. PS1, okay. I put my class here. But if I want to change the order, I will just trick using the file system and then just say, well, this one is the second one to load. And then you should start with this one. Still very easy to understand. Still very easy to understand what classes I'm defining, but then I trick a little bit when I do the dot sourcing or whatever you use the file system, so then you can just load the right file at the right time. If you compile on some Linux distros, they don't order the file based on the name. There's no sorting done automatically. So you need to make sure that you add the sort object based on the file name for this to work. That's a detail, but If you work on Linux, you may have the surprise. But instead of doing that, there's a sampler project I wrote many years ago, and then many people have contributed to, and that allows you to just say, well, I want a new module, just make it for me, and then I will just start adding my functions. And that's something you will be able to try. You can just install the latest pre-release version of Sampler. I tried to publish it correctly this morning, but there's a bug and I didn't want to fix. It's just a test that doesn't pass. So let's create a new module. So that wasn't me. And oh yeah, I forgot to show that. That's fine. Let's just do that. So basically, Sampler is a module that uses many other modules to help you take the different parts that you need, put them together, create the scaffolding using Plaster, if you know Plaster, and then asking you some questions if you need some more information, and prepare everything for you. It's complex, there's a lot of things going on, but because it does a lot of things for you. But it takes some time to learn, and then, as someone reminded me not long ago, there's a documentation that you need to read if things is not doing the way you want, and sometimes not everything is documented. If anything is not documented, I know I wrote it, but I always say just ask him, and then he will deal with the documentation. No, just kidding. Just ask us. We're always on the PowerShell Slack, and then we usually answer, and there's always someone using it that can help. All right, so let's try to create a module. So this one I'm just create in there a module name, which is my module again, and then try to execute this one. So it's just a few parameters. I put this one and that one. Okay. Oh yeah, I want to break because I'm not sure it's going to load the right thing. Let's do this. Minimum version, just because I want to be sure it does the same. Get module, list available, sampler. Yeah, that's the one I want. So minimum version is this one, just for the example. So let's do this. Okay. X09. Yes, Gael. The file, Gael. There you go. So I've got a break here, so I will do it interactively so then you see maybe a bit more how that works. Let's just focus on that. So I need to create a new module. So I say new sample module. You see I've done it not long ago. New sample module, and then I have parameters. So I can just do control space, and then I have all my parameters available there. Where do I want it? So destination path, my local folder is going to be just fine. Actually, no, I should probably do just in, otherwise I'm not going to find it. Module dev, I want to go into X09. Yes, and I'll do it again. New sample module, module type. I do a complete sample. That's going to create some classes, some functions, just to show you where they should be, and then you can remove them and replace them with the functions and the classes that you need for your project, or remove if you don't need classes, an example. Destination path, I want it locally. Author, that's going to be me. And then the module name, well, that's going to be my module. And let's just say I'm not going to put something else because I'm tired of doing the parameters. If you know Plaster, Plaster is a templating system based on XML. And then that just asks me the questions that I haven't passed as parameter. So in this case, what the description? Well, my PSConfEU test module. My default branch is main because it will automatically create the files that I need to go into Git. So there's a git ignore and there's some configuration. And then the GitHub owner, if I want to host it on GitHub. So by default, it's going to be my company name. And then it starts creating all my files. Everything there. Making some changes. Okay. And let's look at what it created. So you see it created the folder there. And inside that folder, you have all the files that were created by this command I just ran. So now, if I look inside the source, you've got a lot of things like GitHub issue. You don't have to have them. You have parameters to suppress these kind of things. You can pick the type. You can pick exactly what you want to have in your module. And in this case, I just go with a complete sample. So that tells me, well, just put everything to give an idea of what will be populated with that module. But you can see I have some VS Code information. You have already analyzer settings. There's already some configurations in there. It just says, well, use the DSC resource analyzer rules. This is a set of rules we use in the DSC community. So then we all code in a similar way. Otherwise, it's just going to flag up and lit up some tests will fail when we build it. And we have extensions that we recommend. That's the kind of things we use as well for the DSC community to make sure the markdown is always done the same way. And then you have obviously the VS Code PowerShell extension, because that's very useful when you write PowerShell. But that helps people when they start a project, they just git clone, and then they can start, having the notification from VS Code saying you should install this or you should install that. And then they will be set up in no time to do this. And then you have some settings as well that we do so that the formatting is done automatically for you in the ways that we configured and we define. Like this is a standard, so we can all write the code that looks the same. When you have some 90 or 100 modules like the DSC community has, if we don't do the same, if we don't apply the same, syntax where you put the bracket and things like that, it's getting harder to do a quick review in a pull request or something like that. So if everyone does the same standard, you don't discuss about you should do it this way or that way. You just agreed on something, you enforce it with tests, pass the tests, and then you just let people get used to it. And for me, it was really hard because there's things I didn't do the same way as the DSC community. But once you get into the habit of just following whatever your IDE is telling you, like VS Code is telling you, you don't have to think about it and then you just get used to it. So there's all of the settings and then some tasks if you need them. So let's just look at all the files that we have in there. Okay, let's just save that for now. So I created my module and everything there. The source is similar. You remember we had the public, private. It added a few other things, but they're just empty folders for now. There's some classes that's defined there. I told you just 1, 2, 3, like just a few classes, so then you understand what's happening. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, because we have this problem of some things needs to be defined before some others, so we need to order them. Like this one, for instance, is inheriting class 1, but if class 1 is not defined before class 11, then it's going to be some issues. So that's why you need to be able to order them. So when you import them or when you merge them, you need to do them in a certain order. And I have also a simple private functions, and I have something which is a get something there. So if in my PSM1, I have nothing. So if I try to import, and then I can show you the PSD1 first, and if I import the module, you will see it will load my PSM1 file, and basically nothing's going to work. And this is X09. Oh, I am already in there, sorry. My module. No valid modifier. Oh, that's because I have another issue, I'm sure. I'm sure I have another issue. No? If you're not sure, test module manifest. May not be my module. Oh, because I'm not in the right folder. Obviously, it's in source folder. Sorry. So basically, I need to go to import it. Import module, my module, source, my module.psd1. And that doesn't do anything. And then if I just do get command module, my module, that's the one from before. Okay. Let's just start with it clean. I could remove the module, but let's just start clean. That's why I should remember to always between exercise. So I run this one, and then it says, well, it's not loaded because no valid module file. So there's definitely an issue with, oh no, I'm not in the right folder now. You saw it, I didn't. You're paying attention, that's good. Okay, let's try again. This one is working, fine. Get command module, my module. And there's nothing loaded because the PSM one has nothing, all right? So it's not meant to be used like that, which is the intent, but there's a way, so then we can build this and generate something that is usable. The problem we have with this is, well, we rely on many other modules, so we need to be able to bootstrap this project. So then from bootstrapping this project, going onto the PowerShell gallery, take different modules that we need to build this, and maybe to test this, maybe to load Pester, so then we can run the test later. And we don't want the built-in Windows version of Pester. We want the real one, the one Jakob is working on every day, because we know it's better, it's faster, much faster than the old 3.4.2 or whatever the version is. So instead of doing that, we have a single command, an entry point again. We just say, well, we want to build this, and we want to build this module. So there's automatically added when you do new sampler module, you have the build.ps1, which is there. I'm not just going to say, well, this is your entry point, and then you have some parameters you can use. On this one, we're just going to do a build. It doesn't work because I'm still not in the right folder, or because I forgot this. No. No, it's not. It should not be in source. It should not be in source. It's just there. It's my module. There you go. Okay, I'll explain why I make the mistake. So usually I have one repository, and the repository will be where I do all my PowerShell development. I don't have a repository, and within that I will different folders with other things. I will get back into this later when we do a proper module. This is just the example, and I will get rid of this so then you can try as well when you clone the repository. But I need to go into the project, the real project module, and it's my module. That's the name of my module, so the name of my project. And then I will do this. Doop, doop, doop. I know it's loading everything, and then it's going to build stuff. I'm surprised it works, because it should not have all the thing. But you go, so maybe I should do that, because you can't see really the output. So it did some stuff, and it says build succeeded, 7 tasks, and how long it took. So let's go and see in the folders. Now we have an output folder, and it's got required modules and the module that we created. And if we look at the PSM1 file now, it's got everything that was defined in different files. And then you can see exactly where which file the things were imported. So we went to class 1, put the content of class 1, went to class 2, and so on and so on. First doing the classes, and then doing the private functions, and finally doing the public functions. And you can see the public functions there. Again, there's always a certain order to have when you do this. That makes sense. The enum enumerations, you need to define them first, usually. Then you do the classes, then private, then public functions. So if you go with the defaults, it should do them in order. But that's why we're doing this that way. I know you have the module, and you will see that, you remember we have things in public and things in private. Automatically, sampler will go on, update the information of the functions to export. So if I add a new file, and I run the build again, it should go and populate that and add this as a second file. So then the two functions are done, and I don't have to change it. There's also, in some cases, the module version will be updated. I say in some cases because when you just do this, initially it won't, you need some extra steps to be able to automatically change the versions. If you're familiar with semantic versioning, it's a way to be able to tell, what is changing. So you can have some rules, and with a tool which is called Git version, to just look at your history, your Git history, and then you say, well, you tried to merge a branch, or the branch was in that form, so that's a minor update, that's a major breaking change, and that's just a fix that you're doing. So in a Semantic version, you have 3 fields: major, minor, patch. And then it will automatically discover what you did based on some rules that you can define. And it will update the version, and sampler will update your PSD1 file automatically. So when you have someone else working on this, they will do a pull request, and the pull request will automatically find the versions based on what they're doing. And then there will never be a version conflict, and you don't have to manage the versions. It will be done based on commit messages or things like that. So if we look at Git version, if I find it, there we go. That's the definition or the configuration file for Git version. It's a free tool. You can do shoko install git version.portable, and then you will have it in no time on your machine. And you can see I say, well, when to do a major version bump? Well, if my commit message have something like breaking or breakings change or something like that, breaking change, breaking. So whenever we see breaking, well, that's probably because there's an issue, so it's going to bump the version. If we just add feature or things like that, then it will say, well, that's probably a minor version update. And then if you just do fix or patch, it will just update this, the last part of your version. And basically, you don't have to manage the version yourself again. And that's when you're a team developing on something and you have different ideas of where you should do a major or minor update, that makes it much easier and people won't forget. And there's other ways to define, and that's probably what I use the most, is depending on the branch. I usually create a branch and I say, well, if my branch is just a fix, I will do fix / the name of my fix. It could be a GitHub issue or something else, but you do fix / and then it will know you're trying to do a fix. And then it will just update the last part of your, the last part of your version. Git version is something hard to understand. I'm just trying to show you that this is a way to automatically manage your versions for you. When you get into doing the build for yourself, you will see that everything is integrated. So as long as you have it in Git and you start doing some releases and tags, which is done automatically with sampler in some ways, it will just do it for you and you don't have to think about versioning anymore. So that was Git version. What else did I need to mention? I think I'm missing something. Oh, yes, I wanted to show you the example of, you see, so this is the module here. It's in the output. And then you have the required modules folder. Well, this one is empty because I cheated a bit. When I opened my session, I already have all the modules installed because I did a test this morning, and that one was working. And basically it said, well, I don't need to take anything, and then it didn't resolve the dependencies for me. But I can force it. I say, well, build, but before you build, just resolve the dependency. And hopefully that's going to work. And you can see it starts getting PowerShell get, PS depend. Let's go and look real time what's happening. It's just getting all the modules that I need to be able to build. So where is this defined? And it's faster than the PowerShell gallery, probably because we're using Justin's module fast, which it could be the default. No, I can't remember. So it's just going, there's a bit more, dscresource.command, because that's some helpful files. And I probably left it by default because it allows you to do some DSC classes and stuff like that. So there's a lot of dependencies. But if you want something simpler, you don't have to take the complete sample, and then you will have less dependencies. But all the dependencies anyway are defined in a simple PSD1 file. And here you've got the documentations. If you want to, instead of getting it from the PowerShell gallery like I do here by default, you can do your private gallery. Whatever is configured on your system, and it will go and get it from there. And then you can see exactly what I want. If you're familiar with, I don't know, npm restore or something like that, you would just define what you want, maybe the version. If you have an issue with the latest one available on whatever gallery you're using, you can specify, which version you want, and it will pick this version. If you have your laptop open, and I know I've been speaking for a lot, and I saw that after a while, a lot of people stopped using the laptop, I would recommend you to just look at this example, which is the X09, and then you have the create sampler module. So you don't have to run it, but make sure you do this install module name sampler. Allow pre-release is important. You should do allow pre-release because the main version at the moment has a bug, which is fixed in pre-release, and I need to release that probably after this session. It's already there, the pre-release already works. I just need to say, well, the pre-release now is validated, it's working, so let's make it a full release. Who's using pre-release in their module, ever? Pre-release, yes, obviously you at the back. A few, okay. Pre-release is a good way to say, well, we making a release available, but it's not yet the one that everyone should deploy. So when you do install module, by default, it's not going to look at the pre-release, but you can still have, anyone from the community say, well, it's there, please test it. And then you can configure it as well. Oops, sorry. You can also configure it in your required modules, PS1. You can say, well, allow pre-release, and then there's no example there, but you can say allow pre-release for invoke build, and it will take the pre-released version available if it's different from the latest release. So let's look at sampler on the PowerShell gallery. Quickly, okay, let me just do PowerShellGallery.com sampler, and then if we look at the versions here, you can see this is the current version. This is the preview, and that's the one that I recommend you to install. But if we show more, we can see before the previews is this one. And that's the last one. If you just do install module, then the sampler, this is the one that's going to be installed. And this one has a bug. But before, the bug is just when it's just in the template. So when you do new sample module, this will create a file with a tiny bug. There will be, in the PSD1 file, there will be 2 keys with the same name, and that's going to break. Sorry, I can't see. Oh, there's a question over there. Sorry, yes. I'm blinded. So yes, it's easier to see you, but I'm blinded with the light, so don't worry. Yes. So that's a very good question. Are the required modules needed for running the modules that we create with Sampler, or is it just for building the module? And that's just for building the module. If you want to add dependencies to your module, you can also add them here. So then whenever someone starts working on the project, they will get this dependency automatically. But you don't have to if you don't have requirements like that. Okay, so what I suggest is you can start, as I did earlier, you can start doing this new sample module. Once you have installed and imported the module, you do new sample module, and then you start playing with the parameters. If you don't want to be bothered with parameters, you just do new sample module. You just do the type of module. So I think it's module type, complete sample, and that's going to create all the file. I will jump back quickly into a slide. If I find it, that's the one. And that's basically what we do. I'm just going to have a drink. And I'll let you run it if you want to run it. We managed to create a new sample module on their file. You did? Okay, another one over there. Good. Good. Okay. Just me a minute. Haha. Good question. The question is, how can you create your own template based on sampler, you mean? Or just, okay, based on sampler. Okay, so that's a good question. The way I would do it is so either you use the template that exists, everything is configurable. So you just say new sample module, and then you have different options, and then it's dynamic parameters based on what exists. So if something is really missing, tell us. We're probably going to add it. And otherwise, you can just create your own module, have a dependency in the required modules in the module manifest to say depend on sampler. And your module is just calling sampler for whatever you need. And on top of that, you add whatever you need. So you just do new my custom module. It just takes whatever it wants from sampler, and everything else, you just do it on top of it. And then you can I use Plaster to do it. You can just reuse Plaster because if you depend on sampler, Plaster will be there already. The Bootstrap works whatever you're using. I use exactly the same process, the Bootstrap, the build.ps1, whatever, to run this for many tasks. This is what the build pipeline uses. This is when I want to create Chocolatey package, not a module, just a Chocolatey package based on some PowerShell. I just do that as well. If I want to create guest configuration or machine configuration package, I use the same principle, even if it's slightly different. It's just different options. So I wanted to show you, just to recap a little bit what's happening. When you see this build module magic and when you have to create a pipeline, this is what's happening. You write your PowerShell file, and with your PowerShell file, you add your test files. That's why you got a little tester file next to your PowerShell file, just to make sure you can test all of those. And then you say, well, let's do the build, and this is what I showed you. You just merge everything into the PSM1 file, update the PSD1 file, and then it will update the version. So we run git version, and git version will say, well, let's look at your git history. Okay, you were on this branch, so this is the version you had before. So based on the tags that you have in your Git repository. So now we're going to go to the next version based on the rules you set. And then we will package this. Packaging is just create the new peg file, making ready. And sometimes if you use publish module, it will be transparent to you. The package is going to be part of this function. When we've got something that is versioned, packaged, it should never change. This is the thing that you will deliver if it passes all the tests. So this is immutable artifact, and this is very important concept. It's something that you've packaged, you took the source, you put them together. Now we need to test it, because this is what, if you test something, it should never change after you test it, right? So don't do something, test it, and then change the version later, because you don't know if something else has changed. So make sure you compile everything, and then when you have everything compiled, the module is available. You can load it into a fresh session, for instance, and then you can execute all your tests on those things. You've got a question at the back? So, good question. The question is, when there's a fail in the build, so when you run the test and then one of the tests fails, what happens? Do you go back a version? Do you update another version? You know, what's happening? So there's different ways of doing it. And usually my configuration is, you have not released, if the test failed, you have not released the module. So you have no conflict over there. But sometimes it's not really convenient when you look at your build pipelines, because you will see the same version. So basically, we just add, the number of commits, for instance, into the version, just to see, or the metadata of the version, to say, well, this is the one that was built, and then you add another commit because you were trying to fix something, and so on and so on. I will show an example of what it looks like. So you've run your test, everything's fine so far. So then you go to the release. What's the release? Well, first of all, you will say, well, we passed the test. This is okay. So we're going to put a tag into this commit ID that we just built. So a point in time in the Git timeline to say, this has been tested and it works. And this is the version that we called this Git commit ID. So now in your source file, you don't have the version updated, but you have a tag that says, this is v1.2.3 or 1.2.3-preview0001. And then you say, well, that's a release. A release, it's a bit abstract, but then you can publish that and say, well, that's the release, and probably you will add the artifact, the new peg that you created, and maybe the README, maybe some documentation is released at the same time, and you make this available on GitHub. So you released and published to GitHub. But then you can also publish to the PowerShell gallery, or to whatever gallery that you want. And once you've got this published, then you can have the deployment process going on. And that depends on how you use it. If you're just building modules to make them available, then someone else will pull them in their system. Okay? And the idea and why it's important is if you can build a module quickly, you will start creating a toolkit for you, and then it should not take you more than an hour and a half to create a new module. Because if you have a function you keep using in different other places and you don't want to copy paste the PS1 file, just put it into the module, make this module a dependency of whatever you're using next, and then everything will link back with the required modules to that part. And then you should be able to start building modules and modules internally at least. And then you will not be slowed down by some changes. You need to make sure you have the right tests, because if something breaks for all the other modules using it, that's a regression and that's pretty bad. But if you test and if you have confidence into your build pipeline, then that's not going to be a problem, and you will be able to release really fast and really often, even when you do a tiny change, because all of this can be automated. And the goal is then, with the different pipelines that you have, you do the same thing. You build, you test, you package. You build, you test, you package. And you can have different pipelines for different tools, and then you put them into the modules, and then anyone can use them. And that's what happens in your company. It's not just one module. It's just not one library or scripts. It's just a toolkit that you start building up. And then you add new functions, and then when it doesn't make sense to put them in the same module, you create a new module. It should not be difficult for your teammates or yourself to create new modules, because otherwise, well, I don't want to create a new module because it's a lot of creating a new Git repository, creating all of these pipelines, making sure the pipeline works. That's difficult. So instead of doing that, you should make sure that it's easy to do. People know how to do it. So then whether it's hard or not is not a problem. You just need to think about the domain that you will have in one module. If something is about VMware products, let's just build a custom VMware, let's say, module. If we start doing something else on Nutanix or something else, let's do a module for this one. And then we can have some higher abstraction, and just do my company new VM module or whatever it is. And then that's an abstraction, whether we're on Nutanix or whether we're on VMware, we don't care anymore. We've abstracted this away. And then we can have another module that takes both dependencies. But it's much more manageable than just doing single files. Is that clear for everyone? Just checking the time. Okay, a bit more time. So that's the only 2 slides I had, I believe. And start demo. Yeah, I've been doing that. So now let's just look at, okay, we've done this on our computer. Okay, it's relatively easy to run. So if I just go back here. So if I want to build my module, let's do a change first. Let's create a new function. So I go in my source. I will do a public function. Create not a folder. I could, but let's just create a new file. Get other thing. Okay. Oh, come on. Okay. And then I will do function. All right. Nah, that's not good. I don't write input like that. Okay, sorry, and okay. Okay, so I just do another thing, but I'll do it this way. Okay, and I'll put it there anything. Okay, I'm just returning a string based on the parameter, and I will say no, it's not mandatory. The content of this function doesn't really matter. Okay. So I do this, and now I can just go back and build, and I just number again. What did I do wrong again? That's probably the one. I don't need the result dependency. Bloop. Okay. So it's gonna go about keep doing the build, and then it says, well, the build is done. So let's go and find what has been built. the output, module, and then if I look at the PSM1 file now, I have my get other thing that has been added, okay? If I go on my PSD1 file, you see, the other function has been added automatically. I didn't change anything in the module manifest. I just added a new file. As we were doing before when we had the automatic dot sourcing, we don't do dot sourcing anymore. So if we sign this, it's done. We have just one file. So it's not going to take longer to load your module. And this is done for you. So now if I go import module, my module, oh no, I'm already there. Output, module, my module, force, get command module, my module. And you see I've got my other thing in there. And all I had to do was just rebuild after I changed that new file. Okay? So if we can do that easily, someone that just takes your module, git clone, then they can just come and, contribute, add a new function, and then make the change. So let's show you what it could look like. So do I have it open? No, it's not. Oh, yeah, it is. Module dev, got other thing. This is, I have twice the same thing open. Okay, let's go and, that's probably why. No. Okay. So what does it look like? Let's just look at a big module. So let's go GitHub, DSC community, SQL Server, DSC. This is a DSC module for SQL servers, how to manage SQL servers. And you can see it's got the same layout. Okay, let's just do this maybe. Sorry, loading. This is SQL Server DSC in the DSC community repo. And that's a bit slow. There you go. You got exactly the same thing. Okay. You've got the sources. And then you have a few of the functions. It's a bit bigger module, huh? And then you've got also some private functions. And you have, obviously, all the DSC resources they used. Okay. And this is still a sampler-based module. So if you look at the required modules, you have the dependencies that you need, and you have some configurations in there. You can see it's trying to get the latest version of Pester, but this one doesn't mind. It just takes all the pre-release, and every time it builds on the build server, it will get the latest version of Pester. So that if there's anything that's going to be breaking maybe our build pipeline, let's say Jakob is doing a release and there's a little bug or something, at least this module will always test it. And then we can go back to Jakob and he's going to fix it. He haven't fixed my code today, so we can fix Pester, no issue. And we rarely have an issue with Pester. But then you have all the other dependencies that we use, analyze the rules, and some of the dependencies that we need for testing this. And you see some classes as well that are there. So very similar to what I've showed you. This is much bigger project. And if I show you how it's built, if we go to Azure.com, DSC community, oh, it's there, perfect. Let's just see the pipeline. We have a release pipeline there, and let's just look. You see there's quite a few steps. And those steps run this. Basically, quality test, high quality resource module, HQRM. This is a term of the DSC community, just to make sure we are compliant with all the rules we have, and we have a lot. You see it takes 14 minutes to run, and then there's just lots of tests and a lot of things going on there. And then we run the same there, like the SQL Server DSC module is running for different version of SQL Server module. So you just have, you start compiling the module, you do it once, it's got the version, it updates the PSD1, it packaged it, and then we can run the test. So then we take the thing that we already packaged, because we don't want to change it anymore, and then run the test, in one instance, like one runner, one job will be running on This one is SQL Server 2016 on Windows 2019. And then you've got the same for the different versions. And you can do that in parallel. Okay, and you see they're doing that for many. And they have the tests running. So if we look at the tests, you can see all the tests, and there's like roughly 20,000 tests running for this one. Yeah, they spend a lot of time doing this, not me. And then you can also go and probably directly look at the code coverage. And then you have a code coverage of 94% with the 20,000 tests. And most of those things, they're just sampler preparing those information. Well, obviously, all the job is done by Pester for running the tests. We just say, well, Pester, the configuration is there. Make sure you can, create the result file that we will provide to Azure DevOps to populate that. So if we go to all the configuration is in the build YAML. And here you have a lot of text because there's a lot of options. So when you do by default, it will give you pretty much everything that you can configure. You can add suffix, prefix to your PSM1. I won't go into the details. When you said you had dependencies, we added a feature so that either you do required modules, and when you have required modules, when you do save module or install module, it will also get the other one. But when you use DSC, for instance, it's not going to do that because it doesn't do import module or things like that. So what we prefer doing is we take the module, we put that into a modules folder inside that module. So when you compile a version, you have the dependency with the specific version you tested it on already within that module. So then you don't have to deal with any dependency. Everything's in there. And next time you build, if you configure to get the latest, it will automatically pull the latest at that time, run the test against that. That allows you to have dependency that always stays up to date. And then you have the workflow. If you want to have some custom tasks, you said earlier, I want to be able to do my own thing. Let's say you want to have something just, for your company, specific, whatever that is, adding something at the end of the file or whatever it is, you can just add a new task to be run automatically when you run something. So in this case, I could say, well, my task. And then you can define your task as well. So I'm going to go here, and I'm just going to go my task. Oops, well, I'll change that. It's YAML, so you just have to configure the YAML. We'll do, right, almost, welcome to PSConfEU. I'm not going to run the whole thing, but you will see that now that I've done this, I can just go, instead of running the build, I can just run my task. And then you can see, I just wrote that one here. But then you can also, you have other ways to define the task. You can just, in your folder here, you just can create a new folder. And this is, oh, typo again, I'll do it. And then in there, you can define your build tasks in PS1 files. So another way. So if you're not familiar, what we're using in Sampler is invoke build. Who's using invoke build already for this stuff? The way you define the task is exactly the same as invoke build. Some other people use Sake, which is another one, a task runner. We don't support Sake. Some people went the Sake route. Back in the day when I started this, I went to the invoke build route. There's no right or wrong solution. We just picked one years ago, and then we just kept building on top of this one. So the way the task works, the question, I'm not sure I have heard the question, but I'll try to give more details. For the task, either you define the task in single PS1 files, and they will be automatically loaded. The one I defined in my YAML is also automatically loaded. But here I could create a new, this is just an invoke build. So if you look at the invoke build documentation, it will explain better than I will do now, but just a quick overview. My task.build.ps1. And then from the top of my head, it's my task thing. And then let's try, see if that one works. I have examples somewhere. And then I should be able to just do this. And let me just check. There you go. So you just create a file and then you can do this. The problem with this, it is going to be only one repository. So that would mean doing what we don't want to do, copy paste the same file over again in the different things. So you can go a step further, create a module for all your build tasks. And this is what sampler is. So if I look at my dependencies here, in output modules and required modules sampler comes with a lot of tasks already defined there. And you see there's some which is create a chocolatey package or some clean module builder things. So you've got already some tasks, the Jacoco code coverage. This is done by one of the tasks. And then sometimes, and this is the case by default, in the YAML we say, well, if you want to manage your release process in GitHub, you need some GitHub tasks. So we say, let's go Control F, GitHub. You see, these are some tasks. When I do publish, I first publish to the PowerShell gallery. Then I release to GitHub. So I add the artifacts to the GitHub release. And finally, I update the wiki content if there's any that's been defined in my repository. And those tasks are coming from the module build tasks. We just say, well, look into that module. And the module is sampler or sampler GitHub tasks for the GitHub tasks, and then just import everything that has IB for invoke build and the tasks. So that is done automatically. If you create your own module, you just change your configuration there, and then you say, my module, that's the name of the module, so your custom module in your company maybe, and then you say, well, everything, that's good. You say everything that has this name, and then you come up with the convention the way you want. You just need to look how invoke build export and imports tasks, but that's invoke build doing it. And you can customize, in this way, you can customize all your build process. And you will always based on the same module. So if you want to add changes to it, you change one module. Every build pipeline that uses the same modules, next time they build, you don't have to redo it, change anything. You just run the build again. It will pick up the new file, and it's done it for you. The other benefit, and I forgot to mention that earlier, is how many times have you seen me doing install module? 0. Just sampler at the beginning, because it's more convenient. But this is not doing install module at all. Everything is save module into that module folder. So anyone doing a git clone of that module, if they just run the build, it will pull the dependencies on the machine, and then it will just save them on a folder, but not pollute their system. So there's no conflict in there. If then they just kill their session, open a new session, clone another repository, it will pull every dependencies for this repository and this project. So you're not polluting. It's like if you've done some Python dev, it's like a virtual environment. You just have a different things. What it does, when you run the build, it will look at your PS module path environment variable and update it to make sure it prepends just the one you want. So I've run the build on this one. So if I do this, you see at the top, it automatically updated this. And that's the way you can resolve the dependencies that I've downloaded before even try to use the system ones. And that avoids a lot of trouble when you're trying to troubleshoot and you realize it used a very old version, let's say, of Pester because it was installed on your system. And if I have one recommendation, on every machine that you own, get rid of this old Pester module and just get the new one. That's going to save you a lot of trouble and it's going to be faster. Okay? All right, do you have questions? Because I've been talking for so long. If you need any more information, or if you want some to show, just grab me afterwards. That's my last session, so it's going to be easier afterwards.
Will name a small
project that uses sample. A small? I created one earlier today, and I wanted to show you that. I just can't remember the name because it's like my test module or something. I think maybe I have it there. Oh, my test mod. That's the one. Okay, let's. I'll get back to this one, but that's my test mod. Just because I forgot the name. And then we go GitHub, Synergy, my test mod. That's the base. That's the base I've done. I just did new sample module. And then when I did the new sample module, I just did a complete module, but that's just the basic files. It's already in GitHub. And then what I did is I just created a pipeline. And the pipeline is just, I can probably create a new pipeline. No, I won't have time because I realize it's late. But basically, I just go in, I just published that to GitHub, so it's available and you can look at it. I went into Azure DevOps and then say, Azure DevOps, create a new pipeline. It says, which repository do you want to get it? I pointed it to my GitHub repository and I said, use the file. And because Sampler provides this file already, it just says, oh, you want the Azure pipeline.yaml? I say, yes, I want this one. And that created my pipeline. And I just said, run. And that run the basics over there. And you can see it already run my module, which is just the sampling stuff with the class 1, 2, 3, 4. And then run that onto Windows PowerShell, Windows PowerShell Core or PowerShell 7, whatever the name. Windows PowerShell, the PowerShell 7 is that one. And then macOS and Linux. And then he published the code coverage, but there's probably no code coverage because we set it to 0 for now by default. And you see the deploy task is already there. So if I go into, and I think that's what I was doing. If I go, but I did not have to finish, and it's already too late. But if you go and you edit the environment, the variables for the pipeline, I can go to my definition here. I will just go edit variables, and then variables. Oh, I didn't do it. Oh, I didn't save. Okay. So then I need to go and then change the variables, put it there, which is the gallery, the PowerShell gallery API key. You put it there. You add also your GitHub API key or your path. You put it there. And then whenever you're going to make a release, so that means you make a change on main, your main branch, it will say, oh, you have everything that I need. I will run the deploy task. And I will publish wherever you have this configured. So you publish to the gallery and done this. And that could be done. And I think Raymond demoed that yesterday in his session. You just publish to the gallery. Yes, just adding the two things. So that's why it doesn't take long to do it. If you want to do that internally, and then you have on your build agent, you have your PowerShell repository configured, same way, and then you can just publish that. You're welcome. Any other question? Yes.
Signal incoming. To files. Because I like it with them. Get faster, we have it, and we use it to like run the code, debug, then you make the changes, and you don't make them without single PSM file that you have.
So the question is, when we build into one PSM1, can we link to the original files before they're merged? It depends what you mean link, but basically when you have an error and you want to debug, that's why when you merge it together, let me just go VS Code, module dev. I show you the build. That's the source. Where is it? Sorry, it's a bit of a mess. Tiny. It's above there. There we go. Module PSM1. So basically we have, when it's merged, so we use Joel Bennett's module builder. And module builder will automatically put those indications, or it's coming from this file and this is the line of this file. And he's got a function that whenever you have an error message, you can pipe this error message to his function to say where it's coming from originally, just to say it's coming from there. So there's no, I'm not sure there's a link exactly in the debug mode, but I would be interested to do that. But there's no direct link. No, you have to do something manually, but you can refer to say, well, it's coming in that line in my PSM1 file where everything is merged. And then you say, well, translate that for me. And then it tells you where it's coming from and exactly which line. So you can go and debug directly. Yes. Any other question? Oh, no, it's time. Thank you very much.